separate the real from the fake. See, we got to get back to love. If we get back to love, then that's when we're going to get back to us.
It seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when you're...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of People Empowerment, where we will strive to change the conditions in our community. I'm Nate Boyd, I'm your host, and we're really going to have a good time today. I have a very special guest here today. It is Sergio Rodriguez, the gentleman who's running for mayor. How you doing, Sergio?
Great, thank you, Nate. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for coming. As you know, in the public, I always like to get two sides of a story. This is Sergio's second time coming on the show. I have extended requests with Mayor Brown to come on the show, and he has told me numerous times that he would come on, but as yet he has not been able to make it. So we'll still look forward to him coming on the show, and perhaps he'll be able to make it before the election on November 5th. Okay?
Let's hope.
Let's hope. But like I say, in the absence of him, I'm a journalist, and I need the complete story. So at least I have your half,
Excellent.
Although there are two sides to every story.
That's right.
So I just want to share one point of the day before we start. Today is October 1st. There is an official government shutdown that's taking place, as the country well knows. And a lot of people think that it's a big, serious thing, and I would pose to you that it is. But I want you to understand that we have had shutdowns before. As a matter of fact, the first shutdown ever, I believe, was in 1977. And it was a shutdown that was brought about by the Black Congressional Caucus in Congress. Okay, and it was about jobs, like it's always seemed to be about jobs, economic stability. And so again today we're here in 2013, and again we're fighting for the same thing, for jobs, for stability, for the people. So I hope it turns out well. Anyway, we're going to focus on what's going on right here in Buffalo. Okay, now in Buffalo we have many problems that are going on, and today we're going to talk about those problems, but also we're going to talk about the solutions. And Sergio Rodriguez has brought forth his platform, and his platform is education, crime, unemployment, and poverty. So we're going to touch on them subjects, and we're going to start off with education. Now, as you know, Sergio, there was a school board meeting held in the Common Council chambers very recently.
Correct.
Different people got to come and got to speak their opinions and their voices, and besides the big debate on whether the superintendent should be let go or not, there were also people there that were talking about different viable programs that could come to our school system. Palladino came up with the voucher system, talking about the voucher system, and about asking the governor and the legislature to issue vouchers to all the parents so they can decide where they wanted to take their children. He said, in fact, on the program that there was about $28,000 per student in this year's budget that was going to be spent on the student. And he was talking about how that money could actually be used to follow the student around. Now, I've also been in touch with a gentleman, Franklin Red, who has talked about homeschooling. And he's going to come on the show and talk more in depth about homeschooling and how that works and how it should apply to the system. But now you also have talked about your answers and your solution to the problem in our education system, and you talked about manorial control. So I'd like to really go into that, and maybe you could explain what's your impression, your envision of manorial control would be over the Buffalo school system.
Well, the key thing to first understand is that we're facing an epidemic in the Buffalo public education system, right? So this is not time to kind of make little tweaks here and there and hope that we increase our graduation rate by 1 or 2 percentage points. We need dramatic changes. We've had the current format with the school board for decades, and it's only led us in one direction, and that's down. Right now, we're only graduating 47% of kids from high school. When it comes to the African American and the Latino community, we're only graduating 1 out of 4 Hispanic and Black males from high school. Now, this is what I call the direct to jail pipeline. What do I call it that? Because if we cannot if basically 3 out of 4 Hispanic and Black males in the city of Buffalo do not get a high school education, what type of jobs do we expect them to have, right? And if they can't get a decent job, they're going to start hustling on street corners, doing what they can to make ends meet, because they have to still put food at the table.
Of course.
So they're exposing themselves to going to jail and getting arrested. So it's no wonder then why our jail system is predominantly comprised of minorities that are black and Hispanic. And it starts with the education system. That is where it all begins, and that is the biggest contributor to the jail system is the lack of education and what we're doing to kids these days here in our school system. So I started doing some research, and I said, well, what works in other urban environments?
Okay.
Specifically, what works in urban environments in the state of New York? And if you look at New York City and the city of Yonkers, the city of Yonkers has a 72% graduation rate. Contrast that with the city of Buffalo, which is at 47%.
Okay.
New York City has a 64% graduation rate. Again, we have a 47% graduation rate here in the city of Buffalo. So what does New York City and the city of Yonkers have in common that Buffalo doesn't?
Tell us.
It's called mayoral control. That means the mayor of the city is in charge of the education system entirely. And the beautiful thing about this model, in 2002, Michael Bloomberg, the New York City's mayor, became the first mayor in the state of New York to pursue this model and receive it. So in 2002, New York City has been under, since 2002, has been under a mayoral control model. And they've seen their graduation rates go from 48% in 2002 to 64%. See, we're going the wrong way here in the city of Buffalo.
Obviously.
Now, the city of Yonkers in 2005 pursued the same model, and they received it. So they pursued mayoral control, and they got it. And they've seen their graduation rate spike all the way up to 72% currently. Yes.
So New York City, Bloomberg does it. Graduation increases by almost 20%.
Yes, which is
Then
incredible.
Yonkers imitates it, and their graduation rate increases by 20%.
Yes.
So what you're proposing is to follow an example of something that's already working.
It's already working.
Instead
in
of
other
trying to
cities
reinvent the
right
wheel.
Here, exactly. It's working in other cities right here in the state of New York under the same laws and governance. So all we're lacking here is the willingness by the administration to pursue this model. The current administration has no will or desire to get involved in our children's education. The mayor has remained silent on this issue, entirely silent.
Well,
Yes.
not to cut in, I'm sorry.
Sure, sure.
But the mayor did say in one of the debates that I was at that he has been working in accordance with the school board. And, you know, he has been doing some things with the school board. He said that.
Saying something versus doing something is night and day. The mayor is saying that he's doing a lot of, I mean, he'll look at you in the face and tell you there's progress in the city, even though the graduation rate is 47%, even though we're the 11th most violent city in America, the third poorest city in America.
Third poorest.
We have the highest unemployment rate in 20 years, and we've lost over 20,000 people since he got elected.
Well, not to get off track, but
Yes.
how do we have the highest unemployment rate in 20 years when we got $1.7 billion worth of economic infrastructure work going on?
Nate, the reason why is
And
because
people are
if you-
working.
well, if you go to the downtown, I challenge anyone to go down to the waterfront during a weekday to see who's actually working there. So consider the fact that Buffalo's population is 49% black and Hispanic.
Okay.
If you go down there, you will not see that being reflected in the workforce.
Okay.
So and we all see the traffic coming from the suburbs down to downtown. It's people coming from the suburbs, downtown, and then going right back. So city residents are not benefiting from this job development downtown, including the medical corridor. We don't have access to this. And so the fact that there are jobs being created in some parts of the city, it actually doesn't mean it bodes well for us. It means great things for Amherst residents, Hamburg residents, Clarence residents, people out there in the suburbs. But we have the highest unemployment rate in 20 years. That means we don't have the jobs here in the city.
Okay, now, you know, I jumped into that.
Sure.
We didn't finish education, but once you said, you know, that we're the third poorest, it just made me go to that. But I want to go back to education because I know we didn't finish that. Now, how does manorial control? How you said pursue it. What do you mean by pursue it?
You have to propose first. You have to want it. So the administration has to actually want to be involved in the education system. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Which I don't see any evidence of that by the current administration. Second thing is you propose a legislation. So the Common Council passes a legislation which, in essence, authorizes the mayor to seek control of the education system. Now it doesn't stop there. Now it has to go to Albany. So the Assembly and the State Senate have to approve it, then the governor signs off on it. The beautiful thing is that because Buffalo has such a low graduation rate, we're at the perfect time to pursue this model. The governor came here about 3 weeks ago and actually said that, hey, this is one of the viable options, one of the viable alternatives to the current model. So as far as the governor is concerned, he favors mayoral control. So we don't have to worry about the governor signing off on this. We just have to get the state senate and assembly to go on board with this. But there's no willingness by the administration. I think the administration is fearing that if they get involved in this complex education system, that should it go the wrong way, they'll get blamed, and now maybe they don't have another 8 years to be in office or whatever the issue is.
But we do know what the problem is, and you do have a plan to solve it.
Yes,
Oil
we do have a yes, we do have a plan.
Okay, I appreciate it, but we're going to move on because I want to get everything in. But I like that, and I hope that the citizens would come to the site, come to the website, People Empowerment, ApolloMediaCenter.com, and that they would register their thoughts on what you're saying. Okay, so
and if I may, Nate, these my solutions on this is on my website. So viewers are welcome to go to sergioformayor.com and see exactly what I'm going to do about the education system. I'll give you two quick things, if I may.
Okay.
One is we need to bring truant officers back on the streets to make sure kids are going to school.
Okay.
We have a lot of absenteeism. We used to
What
have
happened to
truant
those?
officers. You know what? We got rid of them, but it was effective. It made sure kids were going to school, and it held parents accountable.
So you'd like to bring it back?
Yes, that's one of, and remember, it's a 12-point platform. The other thing is supervised in-school suspensions. So rather than sending kids home for chewing gum, all they're going to do is watch TV and play video games at home. They're not learning anything. You keep them in school where they can learn something.
So they go into a special room.
Yes, and they're supervised, and they're actually learning something. So it doesn't
Makes
mean
sense.
that you're sending them home so they can watch TV.
That makes sense, sir.
And there are many other solutions that we have to the issues here, but
Okay.
I just wanted to at least give you that before we move on to the next topic.
Okay, I like that and I appreciate that. Now let's move on to crime.
Yes.
Because, I live on the east side where crime is high. The big crime on the east side literally is shootings and murder and assault. Now, I don't know what the big crime is on the west side, although I do know
it's
another gentleman just
significant.
got murdered, got killed over there. I know there's a lot of drug violence. But maybe
Just
you
3
could
days
inform
ago.
us what's going on over there. And of course, you live in the south side, is that right?
I live in South Buffalo. I
And you
also
could talk about
lived
that?
in on the west side for 3 years, and I've lived in South Buffalo for 10 years.
What's going on in South Buffalo?
Well, in South Buffalo, we're dealing with a lot of different issues. Of course, there are a lot more burglaries these days, car break-ins. There have been signs of shootings. I mean, just recently, last week, we heard about a priest being tied up.
Right, South
And
Buffalo.
even being threatened at knife point of being killed should he not surrender $400. And so this was just last week. So South Buffalo is dealing with issues that in the past they didn't have to. Right now, there are a lot of vacant properties that are starting to make their way into South Buffalo. 10 years ago, this was unheard of in the South Buffalo area, but it's beginning to happen in South Buffalo.
And what about the west side?
The west side we see, it's kind of two things that are happening in the west side. Parts of the west side, including the lower west side, are beginning to see a little bit of a renaissance, right? The Cottage District, there's a lot of good things happening there. So there's a spike there in terms of real estate and the community. But, the Upper West Side is very much where a lot of the crime, the violence, the poverty, the vacant homes, a lot of the issues that are impacting the city are happening in the Upper West Side, parts of the Lower West Side, certainly the east side of Buffalo. And so each community has different concerns. I can tell you that when I go to parts of South Buffalo and North Buffalo, drugs is something that's taking over many households. And it is causing people that wouldn't otherwise think or contemplate of breaking into a house and stealing something to do that just so that they can subsidize their habits. So drugs is a very, very, very big issue in these areas.
Can you give us one specific thing that you would do to fight crime in our neighborhoods?
Absolutely. The first thing that we need to do is put police officers on foot patrol in the inner city. They need to walk the beat, get to know people, and because many people feel like there's a disconnect, there's a barrier between the police force and the community. Well, is it any wonder when we only see police officers drive by, right? You only see a police officer, and they do, again, I'm not faulting the police officers, I'm faulting the system, the way it's set up. It's set up to fail all of us, right? Because we know that if we have police officers walk the beat, they're now more knowledgeable about the community they're serving, and they can actually see firsthand what's going on. Now, the youth and the community look at police officers in a very different light. Instead of only seeing them when they're responding to crime, when there's a shooting, they come around. When there's violence happening, domestic violence, they come around. So many times the only experience many of the inner city youth have with police officers is when they're going in to take somebody's uncle or father in jail. That's no fault of the police officers themselves. It's the fault of the system and the way it's set up. So we need to put them on foot patrol.
What about police and community relations? Like you said, a lot of the youth are afraid of the police.
Yes.
I know just recently I was into a situation, a car accident, and the police talked to me so foul-mouthed and disrespectfully until, you know, I felt like I was in a situation where I was actually nervous and almost afraid from the almost abuse that I was receiving, and it was uncalled for, just trying to communicate with the officer.
And I've been hearing that, you know, from parts of the community. Unfortunately, a few bad apples spoil the bunch. You know, it's not a reflection on the entire police department. There are a lot of great police officers that are dedicated and are doing it because they truly want to help the community. But you do have a few that are just, you know, bad apples, and they ruin the perception that people have of police officers. But certainly if we see them more often, right? If we see them walking the neighborhood and responding to the inner city neighborhoods and their needs, then it makes a big difference. And so we have to work on that. We have to work on sensitivity training. Yes. And
and just to move you along, because you know we ain't got much time,
sure.
but if you could just look into the camera and tell the citizens what they should do the next time they interact with police officers that you believe, and the situation seems to be about to get hostile, what would you suggest that a person, a citizen, do to calm the situation down if a police officer is getting overly aggressive with them for apparently no reason? What would you suggest if you could tell them?
Well, that's an interesting thing, you know. I mean, one of the first things you want to do is you don't want to, and again, I'm not talking from expertise of any sorts, but certainly you don't want to escalate the conversation and raise your voice. I think you want to still speak respectfully. The other thing is, if you do feel that a wrongdoing has been done, file a complaint, a formal complaint. This will be logged into the reports, and then this obviously impacts the police officer's upward mobility within the police department. It's something that is documented should you want to pursue additional action. But harassment by any police officers is simply unacceptable, and it's unfortunate because, again, a few bad apples truly do spoil the bunch.
So we can definitely perceive and take it for a fact that when you become the mayor, that you will absolutely address the relationship between the police and the citizens of the community.
Yes, we need sensitivity training. That's very key. We need to encourage police officers to live in the city of Buffalo. Currently, 63%. The majority of the Buffalo Police Department lives outside of the city. So anything we can do to encourage them to interact with our citizens in situations other than negative situations when they're responding to crime, we must do it.
Thank you, Sergio. Now,
yes.
I got to cut you off because I got to keep it moving because I want to get everything in a short amount of time. But we appreciate that. Now, I want you to again tell people. We're going to talk about unemployment next. I know we touched it briefly, but I want you again to tell people what you need them to know about contacting you, about getting on board, about joining the surge? Anything you need to tell them information, please give it to them.
You know what? I encourage any resident that is out there that wants change. You know, we always talk about change and what we want to do in the city of Buffalo, and we're tired of politicians and the corruption in city government and even federal and state government. Well, here's an opportunity to actually make change happen. So please, if you want to get involved and you feel like you're ready for change, go to my website, sergioformayor.com. You can certainly Google my name, get involved, do something about it. I'm part of the community. I've been involved in the community as a volunteer for the past 10 years. I also served in the Marine Corps for 5 years active duty, so I served my country. I've been doing my part. So what we need to do now is let's do less talking and get involved, because we can all complain about the system. All of us, we all have this ability to point fingers and complain about the system. Let's get involved. Let's take it to the next level and do something about it. So, yeah.
Hey, you told me about the Join the Surge,
Yes.
and the Every Neighborhood Tour. Could you please tell them quickly, the people about that?
Yes,
tell them.
The 30-day Every Neighborhood Tour is designed to ensure that every single neighborhood in the entire city of Buffalo has seen our campaign go through their community. And also an opportunity for that community to get to know who we are and ask questions. But in addition, for me to kind of get to know exactly what issues impact each of these unique communities. We have 28 different communities in the city of Buffalo. It's not just the east side and the west side and North Buffalo and South Buffalo. There's a lot more to that. So yes, this 30-day tour, we have a digital map online where people can follow us and track where we're going to be on what particular day and time. They can certainly Google this 30-day Every Neighborhood Tour or go to our website.
That's the information they need. Now, and also, the last thing that you could tell them about your campaign, you know, I'm sure, what are you doing about as far as funding and raising funds to help?
Well, listen, we have meet and greets, we hold fundraisers, we go out into the community, we ask people for donations if they have funds. But also, you know, we process contributions online. People can make contributions online via a check or credit card or any other ways. And, you know, just like in the Obama days, you know, it was $5 and $10 donations that made all the difference. So this is an opportunity for us to do the same. I also want to remind viewers that we're also on the Progressive Party line. You know,
That's what I was going to talk about.
A lot of people don't realize that if they don't want to vote for a particular party, Democrat or Republican, you can vote for the true independent candidate in the race. So you can vote for me on the Progressive Party line. This Progressive Party line is truly an independent line. It's not owned by any political committee.
Okay.
It's a truly independent line. So if they want to go out there and they want to vote for the person and not the party on November 5th, Election Day, vote for me on the Progressive Party line is what I would tell them.
Okay, that's very good. Now, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but I'm sure you are. I've been doing a little poll watching, and I see that only less than 20% of the registered Democrats came out to a vote in this election, and they called it the lowest turnout, I believe they said, in history.
It is. It's the lowest turnout ever in the city of Buffalo in terms of percentage. A little less than 20% of the voting population went out there and voted. In fact, more people voted for Mickey Kearns 4 years prior in the primary election, and he lost, than they voted for the mayor to go through the primary so that he can win through the primary. That's how bad it is.
You mean Mickey Kearns, when he ran against the mayor, got more votes than the mayor just got in this election?
Precisely. So if Mickey Kearns were to run, if he were the one running this time around, and he would have gotten the same amount of votes, he would have been the mayor. Wow. Yeah, he would have gotten reelected. He would have gotten elected.
That's really interesting. So you think that you have really great chances of
absolutely. What we see,
doing this.
You know what that tells me? It's evidence that the mayor has failed to motivate, inspire, and uplift people to go out there and vote for him. When you look at that type of turnout, it's pretty bad, and it's indicative of the fact that people are not happy with the choices they were given in the primary.
We only have 5 minutes left, so I want to get right down to it. You called what's going on in our school education system an epidemic.
Yes, it is.
I also believe that what's going on in our neighborhoods, east, west, south, even north, is an epidemic of crime, of poverty, of disparity.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Now, I have many times, we have a rainy day fund that the mayor loves to talk about, where we have $11 million surplus. We have a $35 million rainy day fund. And we have the $15 million that just came from the Senecas, right? Now, what I have said was previously, I keep saying is we should call it an epidemic, and we should take some of that rainy day fund money and create paid job training programs right now for our kids, open up after school programs for our kids, and job training programs for the adults in the community. What would you think about that? If you became mayor, is that something that you would institute?
Well, if it's actually called a rainy day fund, it is pouring rain right now.
It's raining in my community.
There's a storm happening out there. So this is the precise time that we need to access any funds that are going to help our community and prevent additional people from leaving the city. On average, our population in the city of Buffalo declines by 7 people every single day. That means 7 people that are not paying taxes and contributing to our revenues. And the way that we generate revenue in the city so that we can provide the services is through taxes and fees. So less people, less taxes, less fees. So yes, we need to ensure that if we have these rainy day funds, we're putting them into work. It is an epidemic.
So that's something that you would definitely do. I know, people really want to hear that because they want to feel like something's going to be done for their problems. And employment is a big thing. And I believe that if a parent is employed, then he's going to have better children, the family is going to run more smoothly. So that's why I harp on jobs. As a matter of fact, while you're here, I want to let you know, myself and some associates that I've been in communication with, we're creating a march for jobs. And and what we're going to do is we're going to march on City Hall for jobs. And we're either going to do it on the 22nd of this month or the 29th. We're trying to figure out which day. But would you be willing to, I don't know, not necessarily be a part of it, but would you be willing at least to come there and say a few words to the people?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that something you would be willing to do?
It's a march for jobs.
It's a march for jobs that we're creating, yeah.
Look, if anybody needs to march for anything in the city of Buffalo, it's for jobs, right? Because the best way to stop a bullet is with a job.
You say what? The best way to stop a bullet is what?
It's with a job. It is. I mean, that's the fact. So I absolutely would welcome something like that. I think the community needs to stand up to something like that.
Well, we would absolutely appreciate it, if you would come out. And what I'll do is I'll confer with you, and I'll make sure that I get you the date. Okay?
Excellent. Please keep me posted. Also, I want to take this opportunity, if I may, to remind
quickly,
people about
please. Please do.
Wednesday, October 2nd at 5:30 p.m. From 5:30 to 7:45 p.m. The mayor and myself have been invited to have a discussion with the community at the Meriwether Library. So if you have an opportunity to come to the Meriwether Library on Wednesday, October 2nd at 5:30, please join us.
And audience and folks, now remember today is October 1st. This show is pre-recorded. Tomorrow is the 2nd. It comes on Wednesday morning at 10:30. So when you see this show today, when you see the show Wednesday, tomorrow, you'll know that same night that this show comes on Wednesday is when they're having this meet and greet at the Franklin Meriwether Library. Remember, this is the last scheduled time that the 2 candidates are going to be in the same room at the same time. So it's very important that you show up for this and that you be able to ask questions. This isn't a debate between the mayor and Sergio. This is questions and answers from the community to them. So it's very important that you be there. It's very important that you be there. It's very important that you pay attention. We're going to let you know how this march is going to go. Sergio said he's going to attend. I'm going to ask right now all the other leaders of our community if they would please attend, if they would show up. We're going to march from Lafayette Square down to City Hall. So we're going to have the date. But until then, this is Nate Boyd from People Empowerment telling you all, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. That's it, sir. My pleasure. I'm glad you was here. Glad we could talk.